everyone, I'm Jack Chapple. I upload business videos pretty much every day, so hit that subscribe button if you want to see more business videos. And today we are talking about 5 reasons why the middle class is dying. We're going to hold a nice funeral here for the middle class here. But if you're watching this, you probably do not want to be middle class. If you've seen my investing videos, you probably do not want to be middle class. You want to strive for more. You want to be upper class. You want to be a part of the 1%. I'm telling you guys, I've lived lower class, I've lived middle class, I've lived upper class. Upper's a lot better. We're going to explain some reasons why the middle class is dying and why it's not good to be there anymore. Anyways, we're going to get started here. We're going to jump right into this. Number 1. These are not in any specific order, by the way. There's a bunch of reasons, but they aren't in any specific order. So we're going to call this one, I saw this actually as a meme, I think, on Reddit, about why the middle class is dying and why a lot of young people are poor specifically. And it's called Avocado Toast. I don't know if you guys saw this meme recently about how someone tweeted out how, or is it a tweet or was it a video about how, 30 years ago, your parents, your grandparents, they were making money, they were saving a lot of money, and they became wealthy, but they weren't buying things like avocado toast, which is $16 or $8 or $10. They didn't feel obligated to go out to eat all the time. And this is something that I call a little bit of lifestyle inflation, but this guy mentioned it was avocado toast. Like, if you're, I think I'm paraphrasing, but what he said was pretty much, if you want to get wealthy, stop buying avocado toast. Avocado. I don't know, that's weird. Don't buy avocado toast. Don't go out to eat all the time. That's one of the key things that you can do. So it mentions like how, young people believe that they have a right to buy a $4 coffee every day. $4 every single day. Let's do some quick math here. $4 every single day, 365 days a year. Let's say 250 days a year. We'll round it right there. Just 250 work days a year. That's $1,000 you're spending on coffee. That's 3% of your income for most of you watching this is spent on coffee if you spend $4 every single work day. And if that is something more expensive, if that's a $10 lunch, that's $2,500. That's about, 7% of your total income is spent on lunch. So that's one of the reasons. The middle class are feeling more entitled to those more expensive daily consumer stuff that people 30 years ago weren't having. Now there's some more serious problems we're going to get into near the end here, but that's one of the problems. People are feeling entitled and they aren't living frugally anymore. I still don't know if that's a word, frugally. People aren't living within their means anymore. Now, number 2, this goes along those lines. Number 2, why the middle class is dying is cheap credit. Back in, actually I was having this conversation with my dad recently, and he was talking about how interest rates for, specifically mortgages, but we're going to assume that these were credit cards, but interest rates back then were like 18% if you wanted to take out a loan. 18%! And now you can get a mortgage for 3%. In fact, if good credit like me, you can get one for 2.3% right now on a mortgage. And so there's a lot of cheap credit right now, meaning that people are willing to borrow money, middle class people are willing to borrow money more now than they were 30 years ago because the money is cheap to borrow. There's no interest. And so it's really easy access to credit. I mean, think about this. 30 years ago, people, I guess credit cards were only started getting big about 25 years ago, I think, right? 25, 30 years ago. But there was a pretty big process to get a credit card. And now you can just call or apply online and it comes in the mail in 3 days. And people barely check. There's really easy access to credit and people are stupid with their money. People are really stupid with their money. So all of a sudden now they're borrowing this money and they're getting behind on payments. That's another thing I wanted to mention here too, is that people get behind on their payments often and that adds up over time. People are very financially illiterate right now. And if you're watching this, you probably are wanting to become financially literate or already are. And that's a good thing. So you're already ahead of the curve here. And another thing too about credit is that people are, okay, we'll take this back 50 years. When your grandparents or maybe your parents, when they had financial troubles, what did they do? They didn't have easy access to credit, and so they would have to cut out a lot of their expenses. They would cut out the food, they would cut out the lunch, they would reduce the heating, they would not use gas all the time, they wouldn't drive everywhere. And so that's what they had to do when they were going through bad financial time. Maybe they took, whenever they took a pay cut, if they got fired, etc., they would cut down on their expenses. But now more than ever, I was reading this article recently in the National Post about how people are using credit as a gap. They're using credit as a gap through bad financial times. So for example, nowadays when people take a pay cut or get fired, instead of cutting out a lot of their expenses, they will just use credit to get over the hump while they aren't making any money. That's a terrible financial decision. If you're making less money, you gotta stop spending as much. You cannot live the same lifestyle. Don't use credit as a bridge. And that's the other thing too. People now more than ever assume that their income is going to go up. They've been getting raises $1,000 a year or $2,000 a year for many years, so they assume that they can spend, if they're making $40,000 a year this year, they assume that they can spend $42,000 this year in credit because that's what they're going to make next year, they think. And all of a sudden that raise doesn't happen, maybe there's a recession that happens and they're stuck and they get behind on their credit cards. So cheap credit. Number two, now we're going to get into some more macro problems here for a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the job crisis. This is a little bit, there's two things here. So we're going to talk about the job crisis in terms of what types of jobs are, not types of jobs, but how there isn't as many jobs available these days actually. So I made this video about the robot economy. I remember someone tweeted this at me about the CGP Grey video about humans need not apply, about how robots are taking our jobs. That's what it's about. And now, at a faster rate than ever, robots are taking our jobs. So I remember I was telling the story about how I walked into a McDonald's last year, or 2 years, I think it was last year, or 6 months ago, or I don't know, it was a few months ago, I guess. I walked into a McDonald's for the first time in a while, and I noticed that there was, at this place, I went there at like 5 o'clock, usually there was 4 cashiers working there. That's how it was through high school and university. There usually be 4 cashiers and a bunch of people in the back. This time, they had 2. And it was technically 1, and then they had like a helper bringing the food to the front. But they also had 4 ordering machines, touch screens, giant screens as big as this whiteboard here. We're talking maybe 4 or 5 feet tall, where you just typed in your order. And that's something that's happening now. Not just in fast food, we're seeing it in retail a little bit. We're seeing it at the self-checkout at grocery stores. That's just one example. All of those low-skilled, repetitive jobs are going the way of the dinosaur. We're talking the next big one that's going to kill the economy, which I'm nervous for, I was thinking of this today. So we're talking about driving. Driving is the #1 job in America. Some sort of driver, truck driver, cab, Uber, etc. And I was thinking about this. There's about 3 to 4 million drivers in the United States as their full-time job. We're going to say 3 million, just 3.5 million, let's say that. It's 1% of the population of the United States is a driver. So I've mentioned this before, only 100 million people in the United States are working full-time. People think that it's 200 million or 350 million. It's about 100 to 150 million. And so doing the math on that, that's roughly what? If all of the drivers were to go extinct, like the dinosaurs, that's going to single-handedly raise unemployment by 3 to 4%. Just by doing that, minimum. Now, there's going to be some other jobs picked up, like engineers are going to be making those cars and maintaining them. But what I'm trying to say here is that all the low-skilled, repetitive jobs that don't require a lot of skill, those are going the way of the dinosaur. This is a wake-up call for all of you that have a repetitive job out there. If you have some sort of repetitive job where you essentially do 1 or 2 tasks or 3 tasks over and over and over again that don't require any sort of creativity, be nervous and be prepared. If you're going to stick in that career for the next decade, watch out. The robots are coming to get you. That's what's happening. They're coming to get you, guys. So if you're doing that, it's more important now than ever to get into some sort of side business, to get into some sort of side hustle, to be a part of a job which involves some sort of creativity or where you're the boss. One of those two things. Or that is high skilled, like an engineer, maybe even a surgeon. Now that's really high skilled. We're going to move on to number 4 here. So we talked about the job crisis. Now we're going to talk about the working poor, which is different. So because a lot of those low-skilled and medium-skilled jobs are being taken by full-time robots, there's less full-time work. So people now more than ever are taking jobs which are precarious or part-time, where they don't know if they're going to work 15 hours or 30 hours. They're not going to work 40 because that's full-time. They don't know how much they're going to work. It's essentially part-time. You get no benefits. That's one of the reasons why the middle class is dying, is because there's this shift in jobs. Actually, there's a shift to highly skilled jobs, but what's happening is that for every 3 low-skilled jobs that are lost, there's 1 high-skilled job that is created. It's about 3 to 1. And unless you're the person that educates themselves to take that jump to a higher skilled job, you're going to end up doing precarious work. So we call this class the working poor. The people who work every single day but are still poor, who work maybe even 40 hours a week, but they don't make a lot of money. That's what the middle class is now. This is also due to the cost of everything going up, and yet middle class wages have stayed roughly the same. So don't be a part of the working poor. If you're going to work on a commission-based job where you have no cap. And try to get a job where, I know that this is me not preaching, but this is easier for me to say because I'm running my own business, which I'm doing very well. But try to get a job where, don't settle. Don't settle for that 35 grand a year job. Don't settle for the $40,000 a year job. Aim for at least 55 grand if you can. Wait out for it. Maybe just take a commission-based job and see what happens. Because, there's the rule of happiness. Of the income level, you need like $73,000 in order for you to be happy per year. That's a scientifically proven thing. 73K is the minimum for you to be happy in terms of income. So that's what you're going to have to aim for, $73,000. How today, think about this, how today can you start your journey to make $73,000? What's something you can do? How much is that per day? Is that like $200 a day? That's about $200 per day, right? $200 a day over 365 days. I think that's actually exact, right? 365 days times 200. Wow, that's actually really weird. So how can you make $200 a day? How? That's something that you guys need to think about. What's the easiest way for you to do that? Don't be a part of the working poor here. Be a part of the working rich. We're going to move on here to number 5. Number 5 here, oh yeah, this is the college trap. This is why the middle class is dying right now, because college degrees aren't worth anything right now. Apart from, the STEM fields and I guess some creative fields, it's not worth it. And yet people still are encouraged to go to school. Why? You could just go look up student loans. Just type in right now on YouTube student loans. See what happens. People are going to school with these giant student loans of $25,000 to $50,000 to $100,000, and they walk out with a degree in whatever, women's studies. Where are you going to get a job for that? HR? There's like one of those jobs available. What I'm trying to say here is that if you're going to college, don't go for something stupid. And especially if you're taking out debt. If your school's paid for by your parents or by yourself, go do whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. Don't get into debt, because what happens is that when you take out that debt, it actually sets you back. People think, okay, what is debt? Debt is a way for you to get ahead, for you to borrow money to get ahead. Now, these days, if you borrow money to get ahead using college, you actually get behind, more often than not these days. 50 years ago, you would get ahead. You would get a better job, a safe job, and you would be fine. It would actually earn you lots more money in the decade after you graduate than you actually paid for in the student loans. Now it's not that case. The college trap is killing the middle class because people are going to school for stupid stuff and then walking out to an economy with no jobs in that field. So, again, that's just my opinion here. These are 5 key things why the middle class is dying. Because the college trap, the college and university route, used to be a key way for your parents to have a safe job in the middle class. Now that's not the case. Again, the working poor, all jobs now are precarious, aren't full-time. That's why the middle class is dying. The jobs suck. When you do get one, that's a middle class one. The job crisis, there just aren't as many jobs available. Cheap credit, people are just dumb with money, essentially, and have easy access to borrowing money. And the avocado toast, about how people are spending way too much on daily expenses that they don't need. People are feeling entitled. So what do you guys think about this video? I think that's going to wrap this up. What are some other reasons why the middle class is dying? I just wanted to list 5. Those are 5 key things. What are some other ones? I'd like you to hear it in the comments. Leave it down below. So shameless plug, go check out my Wealth Accelerator program in the link below. It'll help you learn about building wealth and building a side business in business like I did. It's actually the stuff that I learned on my journey. I don't share everything in the YouTube videos. I have to sell some stuff through programs. So go check it out. Subscribe to this channel if you like seeing business videos like this every single day. Leave a like, and I think that's going to wrap it up. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people. I'll see you guys in the next video.